Marketing is a bunny rabbit. You are a greyhound on the track, chasing after that bunny rabbit, but never able to catch it. The rabbit runs fast, constantly changing the rules with new channels, new types of media, and new tactics. The rabbit constantly changes the rules, so what worked yesterday won't work tomorrow. You need to run as fast as you can to try to catch up to that rabbit, because if you don't, your competitors will, and their ads will get the attention of prospective buyers, while your ads will yield fewer and fewer responses. On today's episode of the Land.MBA podcast, Dave and I are going to go deep on the ever-changing marketing landscape and how to keep your ads first in your market's attention.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Land.MBA podcast. I'm your host, David Van Steenkist, here with my co-host, Mr. Howard Zonder. How you doing today, buddy?
I am fantabulous, as always.
As always. He's a liar.
and I wouldn't tell you otherwise.
That's right. So what are we talking about today, buddy?
A topic near and dear to my heart, marketing. Yeah, something I've spent quite a bit of time in my career doing. I've always been more on the strategic side of marketing, running marketing teams. I've had people that were truly expert in all the tactics. So my interest was more always in they talk about the 4 Ps: product, price, place, and position. So I was like, what market should we be going after? What's the size of the market? How do we differentiate ourselves? What should our key messages be? Things like that. And we might think that, that's pretty much already done for us in the land business. Product, we sell land. Place, we sell through Facebook or we sell through land.com. Price, the prices, we have all kinds of methods and tools to do the pricing. And then it actually created a 5th P called partnerships, but, positioning and partnerships and things like that. The truth of the matter is it's actually a bit more subtle than that. And I think, getting into a deeper discussion of marketing and how to do marketing could make the difference between easy sales and harder sales. And so, let's talk today about what we can do in marketing to make the sales process even easier.
Sounds great. Well, hey, before we get into making that sales process easier, people, if you like the content we're bringing you, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, smash that like button, please, and make a comment. Really helps with the algorithms to help us rank higher and help us to continue to produce this content.
If I could just say, make sure indeed that you smash the button. There needs to be damage to your keyboard when you do this, or else it doesn't feel good on our side.
Right. Damage your mouse doing it, right?
All right.
All right. So you made a statement to me saying marketing is a bunny rabbit and you are a greyhound. Can you keep up? Want to expand on what you mean by that?
Yeah. So for those of you who are not familiar with the very animal-friendly practice of dog racing, when you go to the dog racing track, there's a bunch of greyhounds. And to make sure that they're all excited and going as fast as they can, there's a little electronic rabbit that goes around the edge of the infield, and the dogs are constantly running as fast as they can to chase down that rabbit. And funny thing, they never actually catch the rabbit. Of course, I suppose if they did, they would stop running. So in a way, marketing is like that rabbit. We're always trying to catch it, but we never quite can. What happens is some new technique of marketing comes out and everybody says, "Oh, this is good." No, there's going to be the early adopters, right? They're going to go in, they're going to do it, they're going to master it, and all of a sudden, their sales are just going to explode. This happened at the beginning of the internet with digital marketing. Before that, it was all
Mm-hmm.
print and display marketing. And then all of a sudden, digital marketing comes out. People start going into this new channel and they're having a whole new source of leads and sales that they never had before. Their sales start to explode. Well, then everybody
Remember
else,
when email was magic? And
it still
everybody
is
actually looked
magic. I don't care what
forward.
anybody says. Email is still magic.
But
But it's
not
not
like
magic by itself anymore, I guess you could
right,
say.
right.
And so we chase after the shiny. I mean, we in business, it's called the shiny object syndrome, and in business generally the shiny object syndrome is bad, but in marketing it's absolutely necessary because, and this is the key thing about marketing is to be able to be heard above the noise. There's this concept called the signal in the noise, right? And you want to make sure that your signal, which is your message, reaches the people it needs to reach. And it's hard for that to do when there's so much other noise going on. So when you're an early adopter into a new channel or a new media, new type of media or whatever it is, or new style of marketing, it's easy to be heard above the noise because you're one of the few doing it. But then everybody else catches on, and then all of a sudden everybody's doing it, and it's all just a bunch of noise again. And all of a sudden, it's hard for your signal to get above that and for you to differentiate yourself. So we're always chasing the next new thing in marketing, and we have to, because if we don't get heard above the noise. And so marketing is like that little rabbit. It's constantly running and evolving and changing. And if we're not constantly striving for the next new thing, it's very difficult for our message to get heard by the people that need to hear it above the din and the noise of everybody else. So you, my friends, are greyhounds.
And are you catching it? I don't think so. Boy, we've seen a lot of changes in just in our world in the land business, and we're not unique. I mean, every every marketing channel changes, as you just discussed. And you never quite catch it. And just when you think you've got something mastered, and it's doing well for you, it changes. You know,
Absolutely.
um, I remember talking to we had gosh, when we had Roman on as a guest, he was a very successful land investor. He had a previous jewelry business on Facebook, and was had it all figured out, was killing it, and then Facebook changed the algorithm and took his business from hero to zero like overnight.
Yeah, but being the
Um,
brilliant guy that he is, he sold it before he lost the
yeah,
value.
exactly, exactly. But just kind of making the point where, gosh, we used to, be able to just in the land business put up a couple of paragraphs in an ad. Didn't really worry that our ad copy was all that great. Heck, I was having Filipino VAs write my ad copy, and it was Flinglish, uh, Finglish, and put some screenshots, not even actual photos, up and throw it out on Craigslist, and it got sold. And nowadays, it's quite a bit different. Craigslist, even for quite a while, I would track all my leads, where they came from, and the quantities. And when I had full Land.com, land flip, I have all those things now, but Craigslist used to bring in more leads and sales than all of the other channels combined.
Right.
And then they started changing their algorithms and making it very difficult, started getting flagged. And if you've been in this business a little while, you know the drill. And Craigslist I don't even use Craigslist anymore. It's pretty much gone extinct for land investors. And then came Facebook Marketplace and groups. And first it was groups that were fairly effective. Initially, when I first started Facebook, it was, why am I wasting my time? I'm not really getting good quality leads from here. And then it gradually got better and better. The marketplace took over and became really, really good. And now after that, it's been really good. It's not as good anymore. They've become more restrictive, et cetera, et cetera. Chasing that rabbit, I've never quite got that rabbit. Every time I get close, it goes downhill. So it seems like the only thing I've experienced that has been steady and not changing too much are the paid ad sites like the Land.com, and then there's variations in your subscription. And I've done pretty well with Land Flip as well, which is a little more reasonable, pretty good bang for buck
And that all
site.
makes perfect sense because when you pay for advertising, you are the customer of the company, of the platform that's going to be serving up those ads. When you're getting it for free, like you do with Craigslist or Facebook, you're not the customer, you're the product. And so everything that they're doing is to serve their needs, which is a combination of how can I use this information to make sure that everybody else on Facebook stays on the platform as long as they possibly can, and how can I use the data that's collected from all of that to sell it. And
Exactly.
so their goal is different than your goal. Whereas with a Land.com or a Land Flip or somebody where you're paying them, their job is to serve our needs as the customer,
Yep.
which is exactly so. You know, it's really bizarre. And Craigslist was particularly bizarre to me because Craigslist, gosh, I made so much money off of Craigslist. It was
It was
insane.
so good for a while.
I
It was
know.
so good.
And then they had that thing where if you are willing to divulge your email, then when somebody responded, you would get their email and then you could just add them right into your buyers list. And then they
Yep.
changed
Then
that
they
and said, no,
stopped it.
everything has to go through the relay. And so you never actually saw the other person's email address. And it was almost like they were trying to, it's almost like Facebook came out and Craigslist threw up their hands and says, "Yeah, we don't care anymore." You know, or you know what it actually reminded me of? It reminded me of something in football, something that my home team was just. I think they invented it and mastered it, and it's probably the dumbest thing ever in the history of football strategy, called the prevent defense, which I always like to refer to as the prevent win.
Right. Right.
And it's
Or
like,
playing not to lose versus playing to
yeah,
win.
I'm gonna see 10 yards on every play for the last 10 minutes of the game. You know, well, guess what? They just keep getting into the end zone when you do that. It's like the dumbest thing ever. And it seems like that's what Craigslist did. You know, they're like, you know what? Facebook is already starting to eat our lunch, so we're going to make it even harder for people to succeed on Craigslist. What are you doing? Why? You know,
Right.
but then, I'm sure that they had some belief that, well, because we're providing it for free, our real goal is not to serve the advertisers, it's to serve the buying market. We need as many people on the buying side coming to Craigslist as possible. And so they defined that however they did, as far as if we do these things, then the ads will be more accurate, more credible, whatever. But what they really did, it was like a prevent defense, and it was a prevent win, and they just ceded the entire market to Facebook. And now Facebook is there, and they're doing the same thing, and they're saying, well, you know, we don't, you're getting your ads for free, so we don't really care about you, but we really care about the people that, you know, the other side of the network effect, which is the people who are going to read these ads. And so they just make it harder and harder and harder in this belief that they can make their ads more credible, and more
Right. Right.
in line with what they want. But the fact of the matter is, because they're dealing with so many ads, millions, if not billions, that they have to do it algorithmically. And algorithms do not possess judgment. They
Yeah.
just churn it out.
Exactly. And hence you have to create multiple Facebook accounts because you get Facebook banned. You get put in Facebook jail. And I've got two accounts that have been in Facebook jail for like 5 months now. I don't think they're ever getting out.
Yeah.
And the frustrating thing about that is that from what we can tell, we never violated any terms of service,
They
and they
never
won't
tell you.
they won't
Yeah.
tell you either. In fact, I actually, through another friend's business account, I was able to get somebody on the phone. I was able to escalate it and get somebody on the phone. And my question to them was, hey, I don't want this to happen anymore. Can you help me to find out what we're doing that gets us banned? And the person's answer was, well, I don't see any violation. Now, by now, I had been in Facebook jail probably half a dozen times. And she said, I don't see any violation of terms of service in and I said, well, what, why then? And she's like, well, that's for management only. What the F? Are you kidding me? You know, they don't give a shit. They don't give a
But I mean,
rat
if you
crap.
look at it from a business perspective, a business strategy, you can see exactly what Facebook did. So Facebook, I don't remember when they launched, when it became like really good to use the whole group thing. I think it was towards the end of 2017. And I remember I was one of the first people to start putting ads up on Facebook groups. And I remember calling Trevor Hartsock and saying, dude, you're not going to believe this. I just put these tiny little ads up on Facebook groups and my phone is just blowing up. This is incredible. Until I realized that like 99.9% of them are tire kickers and people who will never buy anything. So then it became a whole different strategy to say, okay, how do we separate the wheat from the chaff? But the point is, and this was a little before Marketplace came out, but the point is what Facebook's strategy was to entice everybody to come and put all this free ads on for a fairly long period of time, and the idea was if they put that on there, then they can prime the other side of the network effect, which is, okay, now all these people are coming to these buy sell groups and these neighborhood garage sale kind of groups. And they're generating all this activity. And the goal of it was to steal all that traffic away from Craigslist and some of the other smaller ones. And then once they had all of the traffic and they had everybody addicted to Facebook, then the strategy shifted. And it was, all right, now that I've got you all on Facebook and we've got this network effect that's almost impossible to break because this is where all the eyeballs are, now we're going to shift you all into paid ads. And therefore, we're going to make the free stuff less palatable so that more and more people will pony up $5, $10 for the paid ads. I mean, you could just look at it and see what the strategy was. And so from a perspective of a land investor, that rabbit just kept going down the track and changed. And we now have to figure out how to constantly adjust to this ever-changing environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I previously, I dabbled in the paid ads and didn't see much conversion from them, much success. But I have heard about some people starting to have some success with the paid Facebook ads. I haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
The other thing I just recently heard, so I haven't investigated. I'll just throw this out there because if anybody wants to comment, please do chime in and comment below if you're on YouTube. I have heard that Craigslist has also sort of, I guess, had a epiphany, and they're now charging. They're allowing you to do real estate as a paid ad versus the free stuff that we used to be. So that could have some potential as well if anybody's left on Craigslist. I think there are still quite a bit of people who do look at Craigslist, especially for the cheaper properties.
So let's define a term here, and that term is channels.
Yes.
I remember I had just graduated from graduate school, from business school. And prior to that, I had been in the Marines, so I really didn't have any business background whatsoever. But I was going into marketing, and so I was responding to this job ad to be a channel manager. And I get out of the interview, and the first question I asked was, "What's a channel?"
And you had an MBA.
I had no idea what channel management was. Well, anyway, a channel is which platform you're going to advertise on. So it could be television is a channel, radio is a channel, Facebook is a channel, Craigslist is a channel, Landflip is a channel. Each individual one is a separate channel. And each channel has different pros and cons for it. So each channel, you can look at it and say, all right, what is the demographic that is most likely to consume your ads on that channel? That's why, for example, when you watch Fox News, you see so many ads for things like geriatric medicine and and reverse mortgages and all the things. It's geared towards older people because older people are most likely to watch Fox News. And this is kind of interesting. The television channel that garners the highest advertising rates for a 30-second or a 60-second spot on all of television, of all the 550 channels out there, whatever, how many there are. Do you have any idea which one it is?
No idea.
The CW network. That's not the
CW.
Cartoon Network, but that's like the network that it would have, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and
Okay.
and the Flash and things like that. And the reason
All
is
right.
because it attracts the teenage market, and teenagers haven't yet firmed up their brand loyalties. And
Right.
so if you can firm up their brand loyalties in their teenage years, you can get them for life. And so
Right.
that's why it garners the highest advertising rates of any channel. So, but these are all different
Interesting.
channels. Yeah. And so each channel has a different demographic of people who consume that content. They have different price associations with how much it costs to advertise on those networks. And it's really important to understand that which one best applies to what it is you're trying to sell and how you're trying to differentiate yourself. We're going to talk more about channels in just a minute, but I just wanted to get that definition out there.
Sure, sure. Well, before we go deeper into channels and all this marketing stuff, hey, if you people are interested, you're in the land business and you're interested in really getting your channels organized and everything else about your land business organized, you need to listen to this spot about land speed. Hey, folks, people often talk about automating and outsourcing your land flipping business, but what does that really mean? Generic solutions leave it to you to figure out how to set up and maintain the automations. I've been running my land business on LandSpeed for over 3 years because it's a total solution and allows me to focus on being a great land investor. LandSpeed was built specifically for land investing by a land investor. And with many of the most successful people in the business using it for years, it's evolved into one of the most feature-rich solutions on the market. Some of the key benefits I get are being able to create and manage mail campaigns and neighbor letters. I'm able to automate tasks amongst my team, create contracts and deeds, and email, text, or mail them within a few clicks. I can automatically capture sales leads from any lead source, including Facebook Messenger. Then it automatically pushes those leads into my sales funnel so that I can manually follow up, but they also go into my automated drip campaign. And since LandSpeed's a total cloud-based solution, I can run my business from anywhere in the world with a phone, laptop, or tablet. So if you want to turn your hobby into a professional, scalable business, just go to landspeedtech.com/Dave to receive a $150 discount today.
There's a definition I heard about a long, long time ago, and it's one of those things that's just got burned into my brain housing group, and it's never left me. And it's, what is the definition of marketing versus the definition of sales?
Sales.
And this is how I heard it, and I've never heard anything that is more succinct and more accurate since. Marketing is the process by which you create customers. Sales is the process by which you engage those customers in an exchange of value. So if you think about that, then the better job that if you can do a better job at marketing, what you're doing is you're making it, a whole lot easier when it gets to the sales side for them to close fast, efficiently, and have a lower cost per sale, because you've done a lot of the heavy lifting. You've created this overall umbrella of, by the time they get on the sales call, people are pretty much already sold. They just need to sort of get over that last hurdle and, and sign the contract and pay the money. So that's the difference between marketing and sales. And so if you think about this in the land business, the better we can do at marketing, the easier it's going to be to sell, which means we're going to sell faster, we're going to sell more, and we're going to make more money. And it's going to be easier to do it.
Yep. And once you create, the thing is, if you spend the time and the effort and the money to do a really good job on the marketing, there's going to be less work in sales because you're not going to be as much. There are still idiots out there, but you're not going to be answering the same questions over and over because you didn't put it in your ad. It's very important to pay attention to what questions that customers are asking, and if there's repeat questions that you're getting asked and have to keep on calling back or sending an email, or that all takes your time. Why not spend that time once? Mostly once. Like I said, there's still idiots because they don't read. But
nobody, which gets back to that whole Craigslist thing, is, you could have that ad written by a Filipino VA that didn't quite make sense, at least to our ears. And it didn't really matter because, and I heard, this is something I heard one of my early jobs after school, is my boss came up to me and said, "Howard, what you have to understand is people don't read."
Right.
They don't read. Yeah. And even on Facebook, that's why you're like, the first question they ask you is, how much the property? It was a 2-line ad. Did you read it? The price is right there. People don't read.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. I do find that buyers do read. Tire kickers don't, but most of the tire kickers, they don't read. They ask the stupid questions and waste all your time. Yeah. And you spend all your time with them. The ones that read are generally the ones that actually buy.
Maybe. And the reason I say that is because it gets back to the whole conversation about channels. So I always looked at Craigslist as the Walmart of channels for the land business. Absolutely. Whereas Land.com or LandWatch or Land and Farm, they were more like the Saks Fifth Avenue of channels for the land business. They attracted very different demographics of people looking for land. So the people who go to a Land.com, LandWatch, Land and Farm, they are the kind of people who are, if they were buying a house, they'd go to Realtor.com. I mean, they're looking for legitimate properties that, look like they're going to be sold by legitimate people. And in so doing, they're a little bit more sophisticated.
I think, there's a little bit that in general, you're right. But I also think that there's a little caveat in there that it depends on the price point of the property, because usually you're not going to sell your more expensive properties on Craigslist. You're going to sell your cheaper properties there.
And Why?
Let me finish. But you may also put your depending on your inventory, you may also put your cheaper properties on Land.com. And so you're going to have a little bit of crossover there. You'll still have some people who are more of the Craigslist demographic that are on Land.com because they're genuinely looking for land, and so they're going to. But their view is they want to find the cheapest price, so they have this paradigm that Craigslist is going to be cheaper, when that may not necessarily be true.
Fair enough. And there's no such thing as always in marketing.
Absolutely.
Demographics doesn't mean that there's no Walmart shoppers on Land.com. It just means that the majority of people tend to be more of your Saks Fifth Avenue shoppers. And the same thing goes in the other direction. It doesn't mean you won't find a Saks Fifth Avenue shopper on Craigslist. It's just less likely. Yeah. So if the majority of your buyers on Craigslist are more of your Walmart shoppers, what that simply means is, they have less money. They're perhaps less sophisticated in what they know and how they purchase and what their expectations are. And I guess just from an experience perspective, not to say that those people are dumb or that there's anything wrong with them, but I will say that my experience on Craigslist is that they don't read. Whereas people on Land.com or any of those channels are much more likely to read. And that's just a demographic thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And then you can sort of say, all right, well, then when you get past that, there's the copy issue, and then there's the what's the supporting material. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. You could probably then say a video is worth 1,000 pictures, and drone video is probably worth 1,000 videos. So now we're at about 1 billion times more valuable than just words.
Yeah, now we're going from channels into the structure and our media and our ad copy.
Yeah. So before we get there, though, there's one last concept I'd really like to introduce, and that is what are we really trying to accomplish with marketing? A lot of people that I've seen in their early careers thought that the purpose of marketing, and I said this earlier, right? One of the purposes of marketing is to make it so that your sales is a lot easier, right? But the truth of the matter is, if you go in thinking the purpose of marketing is to make my products easier to sell, you're actually kind of missing the boat. What you're trying to do is saying, if I market really well, what I'm trying to do is make my products easier to buy. We're not trying to make it easier for the salesperson to make the buying decision or to get to a buying decision. We're trying to make it easier for the buyer to get to a buying decision.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in so doing, what we're doing is we're selling the outcome. What are these people looking for? And we want to paint the picture of the outcome that they're looking for, in why they're looking for a piece of land. And we want to be able to show it very clearly and vividly in good, high quality photos and video, and deliver that information. But in our video and in our ad copy, also be able to deliver the emotional effect. Emotions, facts tell, emotions sell.
Yes.
So we can give them all the facts. That's great. It's got water line. It's got power. It's got good access, blah, blah, blah. But look at these amazing views, or look at this amazing water behind it and the wildlife, and imagine what you could do, build your secluded getaway here, your bug out pad, whatever. Tell that story and tie those emotions to the facts. Because if you do a good job of that storytelling and selling the dream, selling the outcome, then there may be some features that property actually doesn't have that's ideal to this buyer, but they're going to make a compromise. They can compromise on, well, maybe it doesn't matter that this property is so beautiful, love the views. It doesn't have power. I can use solar. and propane. It gives you a way to sort of sell around those objections when you get them on the phone by really forecasting that dream or projecting that dream.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
That's right. Said well by a software salesman.
Exactly. I did this presentation for my team in my last corporate job, and it was basically on how people buy. There's the logical process, and there's what they call the heuristic process. And heuristic, it simply is a fancy word that means shortcuts. And it all comes out of a very famous and influential book called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, by Daniel Kahneman and Tversky. I forgot his first name. And these are the guys that invented the field of behavioral economics. And So to put this in perspective, think about when you first learned how to drive a car. So when you first learned how to drive a car, you're coming up and you want to make a left-hand turn, and you were taught the steps and you're thinking through it. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look in my rear view mirrors. I'm going to scan the area. I'm going to turn my turn signal on. Then I'm going to put my foot on the brake. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to slowly turn the steering wheel. I'm still looking, scanning the area. I'm going to check my rear view mirrors again. I'm going to go into my turn. I'm going to take my foot off the brake, put it on the pedal. I mean, there's a lot of steps involved in that simple little activity. And if you have to think through each individual step, we'd probably, have nothing but accidents all day long at every intersection on the road. But what happens is, after even a short while, those steps become internalized. And it's not that you stop doing those steps, you just do it almost subconsciously, which allows the majority of your mental energy to be focused on the scanning and sort of taking in, danger, whatever danger's out there. So, so when you're thinking through it step by step, that's thinking slow. That's logical, the logical process for doing it. And when it's subconscious, that's thinking fast. Your subconscious mind's kind of doing it. And when we get into marketing, it's a bit of emotion versus logic. So particularly in technology, a lot of salespeople and marketers as well come in and they're thinking, oh, I got to tell you about all the speeds and feeds. Or in land, it's like, this is the size of the property, and this is the slope of the property. This is whether it has trees or whether it's prairie, whether it's got water features or doesn't have water features, whether you can put a house on it or can you put a mobile home on it. These are all data points which are necessary, but they won't actually help you sell the property. In the end, it's exactly as David said. It's like, how do you get emotional? I remember when I did this presentation, I wanted to create some kind of visual representation of the logic versus the emotion. And so, being a bit geeky, it was Captain Kirk versus Mr. Spock, right? Mr. Spock may be brilliant and he may always be right, but he doesn't get people to do stuff. Captain Kirk gets people to do stuff because he reaches in, grabs them in the heart, and makes them understand why they want to do it. And that's what we need to do as marketers. We need people buy. And I liked what you said just a moment ago. You said, what did you say? People, what about facts and emotions? What is it?
Oh, facts tell, emotions sell.
Facts tell, emotions sell. And that's really nice because it rhymes. I've always said it a little differently, and it wasn't perhaps quite as eloquent, but it was that people buy for emotional reasons, and then they justify their purchase both to themselves and their family and friends based on all the logical facts, speeds and feeds, and the facts that you provide for them. And so both are necessary, but you got to understand it's the emotion that gets them over the goal line.
Absolutely. I mean, take that to cars. Cars is a prime example. Maybe somebody sacrificed on a particular feature that they thought was a must because they love the color, and just the combination of the color and of the exterior and the interior. They say, I don't really need 4-wheel drive, even though I live in the mountains of Colorado. Front wheel's good enough. But we'll justify. But it has a kick-ass stereo and
the cup holder. The cup holder's in exactly the right spot.
So, to them, it was logical because that's an extreme example, but it is a really good point on stuff. I mean, I can't think of a great example right now, but I've bought things before.
Well, the car example is great. Yeah. It's awesome because, all right, I want something that's going to have great gas mileage. I want something that's going to be incredibly reliable, something that's going to have low maintenance and repair costs. Something that's going to be comfortable and have the basic features that I want. Boom, 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 boom. Answer, Honda and Toyota. I know, but BMW, man, that makes me look like a winner. People are going to think I'm like totally a successful guy if I get the BMW. Except, you know what? It's got lower gas mileage. It's got really high maintenance costs.
Yeah, we won't talk about the Range Rover you bought.
The disaster I had for 4 months before it blew up on me almost killed me and my kids. But it was a Range Rover.
and had leather interior. And
I would drive
nice
down and people
logo.
like, hey, how is that a new car? That thing is hot. I'm like, yeah, baby. 4 months later, I'm out thousands of dollars. All right, two other things we've talked about, that I think you really want to focus on. One is channels. We
Yep.
talked a bit about that. So think about what's important to you in a channel strategy. Some channels are free. Some channels cost money.
Yep.
And a lot of times in this business, because this is our money we're playing with, not some company's money, we never actually want to spend money. But just remember that really important thing. If you're paying for it, you're the customer, and the platform's there to serve your needs. If you're getting it for free, then you are the product in order to attract eyeballs on the other side, so that the company can use all that data however they want to use it.
Right.
So free channels, that little rabbit's going a lot faster than paid channels. Paid channels are still there to serve you, so you can almost keep catching it. But with the free channels, it's really hard to catch the rabbit. So that's channels. The other thing we talked about was structure and media. So you can there's copy, there's photographs, there's video, there's drone footage, there's all these different kinds of media that you can embed in your advertising to make it more attractive and to differentiate it and get your signal above the noise. And they all have different price tags associated with getting them.
And it may or may not be. You have to make a decision, based on what price points you're playing in the business too, right? If you're doing really, really cheap properties, you've got to make a decision both on the media and on the channel. And there's no magic bullet to it. I'll throw this in while we're sort of on this topic before we jump to the next one, and that is the sort of the narrative that has been taught by most of the gurus is when you have a property that is of a certain type, acreage, and attribute in a certain area, you've priced it to buy it accordingly. Now you're going to actually get it, put it on the market and sell it, and it's everybody's taught, come in 20% below the competition on price. Well, that over time turns to be a race to the bottom, right? And so I have been, and I have with success, and I have seen successful people doing this lately, and that is, you know what? I'm going to rise above that. I'm going to actually do a little bit better marketing, go ahead and spend the money on the drone photography and do a nice narration on my video, even though this is a lower end property, not a junk property, but a lower end property, and sell it for above the market and make myself look a little bit, my business look a little more credible. And that kind of points to one of the topics, and that's brand.
Absolutely. That's a phenomenal point, though. I mean, we think, oh, if I pay for marketing, that is costing me something. But if you do it right, you could potentially charge a higher price and then make even more than the cost of that marketing. So it could.
Is it just me, or is it getting harder and harder to count on a job for our financial security? Who would have ever believed that we would go from the lowest unemployment in 50 years to 40 million people unemployed? Whether you have a great job and want to create a second income, or you're recently unemployed, you need to check out Land.MBA, your one-stop shop for land investors. Investing in vacant land is a proven business model that can help you build a reliable and scalable second income. Imagine a business where you love what you do. There's no limit on how much money you can make. You can operate your business from anywhere in the world with an internet connection. And best of all, you can never be fired or downsized. If this sounds good to you, Land.MBA provides everything you need to get your business up and running and delivering income quickly. You get education, an end-to-end video course, and optional coaching to help you get started faster and turn your energy into income. You get tools so you can automate and outsource the busy work and stay super organized. You get access to a thriving community of like-minded investors, which is a powerful way to share best practices and develop potential partnerships for growing your business. And finally, you get access to deal financing, so you never have to pass on a great investment opportunity due to limited funds. Our team has over a decade of real estate investing experience and has the knowledge and experience you need to help navigate any investing scenario. And with Land.MBA, we hold nothing back. Because there are no upsells, you get access to all of our combined knowledge right out of the gate. So don't wait to provide your family with financial freedom. Sign up today for Land.MBA's Soup to Nuts Land Investing video course. Just go to courses.land.mba and use coupon code FREEDOM to get 25% off. That's courses.land.mba and coupon code FREEDOM. And let us help you say goodbye to your job and hello to financial freedom.
Move inside because my landscaper came and he's loud.
Well, I was going to say that, this is good because I don't have to squint quite as much now because there's not as much sunlight reflecting off your dome there. But I can see that there's a window next to you simply because I can see it reflecting off the side of your head. All right. Where were let's get back to this. We're in branding. What is the value of branding? This is one of those really difficult to answer questions in marketing because you can say, well, what if I spend all this money on advertising, not to actually sell anything, but just to build my brand? How could you justify that spending? Well, I mean, they answer that question by trying to, coming up with a model to say, okay, this is the value of Coca-Cola's brand. This is the value of Apple's brand. Brands have value, but what is a brand? And this is it's a very short story too. Is early in my career, I was in the telecom industry and I was working for Lucent Technologies. And back in the 90s, Lucent Technologies was the company. It was the darling of Wall Street. It just split off from AT&T. It was considered the oldest startup in history because, it started with Western Electric back in the 1800s. But all of a sudden now we just launched as a separate company in stock. This darling thing with 40,000 employees. Well, I was in the part of Lucent that was selling to AT&T, which was just this little $3.5 billion a year business that we had with AT&T. And AT&T got a new chairman, and they wanted to move everything from the old technology of the old telecom technology to internet protocol technology. And so all of a sudden, we found ourselves not competing with Nortel and Ericsson and the other traditional competitors. Suddenly we were competing with Cisco systems. And this is like a perfect case study of what a brand is. A brand says this, and let's just use that example. I'm Mike Armstrong. I'm the the chairman of AT&T, and I want to move everything to internet. So when I think in my head, internet, in this little spot right here that says internet, and I think of who are the companies that I believe have the most credibility and the most to offer in internet, the first company that pops into my head is Cisco. Not Lucent. Mm-hmm. Lucent's old technology. They occupy this spot over here that says old technology. That's brand. Brand means that before I know anything, when I say this is the thing I'm looking for and that I care about right now, what's the first brand that pops into my head? It's this. And what does that brand mean? There's a couple key brand concepts. One is brand equity, which means what does the brand mean? And then the second thing is brand reach. How much of my target market actually knows and values my brand? So that's where the value of branding comes in. Now, I'm not suggesting that in the land business, as small businesses, we go out and spend $1 million a year on branding ads that don't actually sell anything. Right. But what it does mean is that in every customer touch point is a branding exercise. When you put an ad out there, that's a branding exercise. When you get on the phone and have a sales call, that's a branding exercise. When a customer has a problem and they call you with that problem, how you handle that is a branding exercise. So what does your brand mean? Does it mean you've got the best properties or that you've got the cheap properties? Does it mean that you are do people believe that you're a fly-by-night operation, or that you're rock solid? Do they believe that you've got good integrity or bad integrity? Do they think that you have great customer service or really crappy customer service? All of these things contribute to the brand. And by the way, the brand is not what you say it is. It's what they believe it is.
Yeah, good point.
And
Good
that's
point.
why every touch point is a branding exercise. And so we need to be conscious of that and work that into how we communicate through our channels, how you write your copy, how you what structure and what media you include, pictures and videos and drone footage and whatnot, and are there little labels and arrows and diagrams around the property and things like that. How you present yourself will determine how they feel about you as a credible company to do business with. And when we said earlier, the purpose of marketing is not to make it easier to sell. It's to make it easier for the customer to buy. And so there's a number of questions that they're going to get when it makes the transition from marketing to sales. The first question is this something that I want? Is this something that's going to satisfy my need right now? Those two they have to be there, or you're not even going to get the sales call. But once you get that, the next questions are a little bit softer. Do I trust you? Is this a company I would want to do business with?
Right.
Do you make me feel good and served and protected and cared about? Those are soft, but they're really, really important, because if those questions are answered well, then you're easy to buy from. And it makes the sales process a whole lot easier. And that's the value of branding.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And, in many industries, that branding is paid for. And there are different, arguments for branding or not. Some business people would say every dollar that you spend on marketing should be directly attributable to revenue, and some and don't believe very much in branding, and they'll say that the people who are buying those big Super Bowl ads and whatnot for branding, those are big companies that's all write off anyway, but it doesn't necessarily tie to sales. Now, in our business, I've seen some people doing a very, very good job of that. Takes effort and labor, but it doesn't cost anything. And that is putting out good value, good content, either about their properties, also a little bit about their company, but giving good nuggets, good actionable, usable nuggets for their buyers about, mistakes to avoid when buying for property, how to look for property, things like that. And they'll do little shorts on YouTube and Facebook and things like that. And over time, actually, not only does doing branding on those channels and producing relevant and interesting content to those channels to the right audience, that builds your credibility over time, and hence your brand. And there's some people out there doing a really good job of that. And I know of a couple of people that where they're actually generating a ton of leads from YouTube as a channel, just doing the branding.
Absolutely. I mean, let's just pump a couple of people up right now. We've had Dave Deniston on the podcast. Dave is an absolutely brilliant businessman. I mean, he had a phenomenal business even before he got into land. Then he got into land, and he's done great. And he's done so great, he was now taking a different attack on land, and he created a separate. So now he's got two land businesses, taking two slightly different angles at it. But Dave built a podcast talking about properties and about buying land. So he does. Stories. I mean, that takes effort, but he's doing that. And he's basically building an audience that says, this is who I am, and this is why you can learn from me and trust me and think that I'm a good person to do business with. Trevor Hartsock built a YouTube channel, and he puts all kinds of videos up there about all the properties he's selling, as well as some things that aren't even property related. And suddenly, he found himself that he's built this huge audience on YouTube. And, are they all buying properties every day? Of course not. But the bottom line is they're consuming the content and they're getting a positive impression of him. And if the moment comes when they're ready to buy a property, they're going to say, I want to look at that guy because I know him and I trust him.
Exactly right. I want to parlay on that point a little bit, because building that audience, you hear about, and we didn't talk about this channel, and that is the buyer's list and email, but also you build an audience on YouTube or Facebook, and that is also another buying channel. But you made a great point that they may not be buying today, but because they know, like, trust this company, this brand, they're paying attention to what's coming out. So they either may be watching the YouTube channel, but they also may be on the mailing list getting the deals of the week. I have sold, now I haven't personally done a great job with my YouTube channel. It's on my list to really improve this year, but done a good job with my buyer's list. And I have sold a few properties off my buyer's list that weren't immediate. They were people that had been, maybe at one time they got on my buyer's list by clicking on an ad because they were really interested in this particular property, but for whatever reason didn't buy it. Maybe it didn't have everything they wanted, but it was the area, whatever, it was missing something, so they didn't buy. But they knew that, they saw my stuff, and I'd have these emails dripping out, and nah, and then a year or two later going, ooh, yeah, that's the property I want, and they bought. So very effective, and that's kind of branding, channel, the whole 9 yards, putting it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last point, because I think this is really great conversation, but it's run a little bit longer than I expected it to.
It is actually, yeah.
But
you're long-winded, man.
That's copy. Copy is really important. We did say people don't read, but some of them do. The thing is that you've got to write the right copy at the right for the right ad. And many of us have already heard this a million times, but in marketing, people don't marry you on the first date, right? There's got to be a bit of a courtship. And so you're not, every once in a while, you're gonna put it out there. You put it on your website, and you go to bed at night, wake up in the morning, oh, somebody bought a property. Well, that's phenomenal when it happens, but you can't count on that happening all the time. So you put different ads out there. So there's a Facebook ad, and then the Facebook ad might go to a landing page, and then the landing page might, result in, going to the website, and from the website it might generate a call. There's different, moments in that funnel activity. And I think what a lot of marketers have done that I've seen in my career is, one, they talk from the perspective of themselves and the product. Oh, look how great our product is. It can do this and that and the other thing. Nobody gives a crap what your product can do. They only care what it can do for them, right? They care about them. They are the hero of the story, always.
Sell the outcome.
Second thing is that if you give people all the answers up front, then they say, okay, I got it, but they still might want to do some comparison shopping. And by the time they've looked at 2 or 3 more other properties, they have forgotten you, or they remember something that you wrote, but they don't remember which company you were and what the URL was. It's all in the history. So It's not actually, you don't want to make it hard for people, but you want to give them a process that they have to go through that's fun, enjoyable, but also puts forth a little bit of effort. So in the early part of the funnel, it's really good to focus more on intrigue to get them to the next step. It's sort of like when you're trying to get a job, you put a resume together, and people want to put their entire history and everything they've ever done on that resume. But that's actually a huge mistake. The purpose of a resume is not to communicate your life story. The purpose of a resume is to get an interview, nothing else. And so if you give all the answers up front, you've given too much. So you give as much as needed to achieve the purpose. The purpose of the first step of the funnel is to get them into the second step of the funnel. The purpose of the second part of the funnel is to give them more information to generate a sales call. But you got to understand what the goal of each step is and make sure that the information that you're providing in that step is just as much as necessary to get them to the next step, not more, and is crafted in a way to make it almost impossible for them not to go to the next step. And that's something to think about in terms of copy. We don't have enough time now to get into more depth on it, but but never fail to underestimate the power of intrigue. That's really what we're trying to achieve here.
Absolutely. And just to go on another, I had a recent lessons learned on copy. I had bought a portfolio of properties from a guy, and they were cheaper properties, normally cheaper than normally I like to mess with, but because it was one person and he had a bunch of them and I bought them very, very cheaply. I went ahead and bought them, and some of that, they were different sizes, anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 of an acre. And in that area, it had to be a minimum of 3/4 of an acre to build on. But other than that, these lots are all the same. So my marketer who writes my ad copy basically wrote all the ad copy pretty much the same on them, and we didn't release them all at the same time. We put out 3 or 4. But the problem is she didn't differentiate, and I didn't proof it closely enough and catch it between the 3/4 acre buildables and the halves and the quarters that were not buildable. And so I actually sold a guy a 1/4 acre lot, and then he came back to me like 2 weeks later wanting to return it because he did his due diligence after the fact. And so I can't build on this. I'm like, yeah, you're right. When we put that in the ad, he's like, well, no, you didn't. And I can look at the ad and I'm like, oh, no, we didn't. So I had to give him his money back. And so just a big time wasting thing. So make sure you get the facts in there that need to get in there regarding stuff like that, so you cover your butt.
Yeah, good
anyway.
point.
Hey,
all right.
Yeah, we gotta wrap up, but I just got a text from my newest coaching student, and she just put her first deal under contract, and it's an amazing deal, like a buy for 30, sell for 60 to 70.
Wow.
So I gotta review it and see if her numbers are right, but I can't wait. I need to jump on the phone with her when I get off here and review it. So.
Fantastic. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dave, this has been a marathon, not the sprint that I thought it was going to be, but I think it was a really, really good conversation. I hope this is helpful to you, our audience. If so, please put some comments down below, whether you're doing it on the podcast channel or on YouTube. We would love to hear your thoughts. If you agreed, if you disagreed, if something resonated. If you have any ideas for things that you may want us to talk about in the future, just pop a comment down there, and we will endeavor to create some valuable content around it. Thank you so much for listening. This is Howard and Dave at Land.MBA podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Adios.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, had a bit of fun, and walked away with some actionable insights that you can apply to your business. Dave and I have got some great content and interviews planned, so don't forget to rate and review, and of course subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If we mention any interesting links or tools, you'll find them in the show notes. To learn more about Land.MBA, visit our website at, wait for it, Land.MBA. See you next time on the Land.MBA podcast.